just recently diagnosed. Is that correct?
I'm actually in process at the moment. So I have been seeing someone through my work recently, and then I got referred through that to, because I live in France, but all of my work in Switzerland, so all my like medical insurance and that is through Switzerland, which is kind of better because they're a bit better than France. And so then I have my appointment, one of my first assessment appointments last week, and then they've scheduled more for me to do the physical tests. So I have to do all the written tests and stuff like that.
Right.
But it was really, really funny talking to the guy. The guy was just sat there and he was going through all the different stuff, and he asked me the typical questions and stuff like that. And I just rattled off like my entire life and stuff. And he just sat there and went, well, it sounds very much like it's probable that you do, but at the same time, we still need to do these things. And I'm just sat there like this. And it's just like, all right.
Yeah, it's funny. When you do the assessments or whatnot, it's so funny to me because they have these tests and all of a sudden, you know, someone will open a door in the background and they think that we don't know that, like, that's the test. Okay. Like whether that is the door. Right. Exactly. It's like, of course we know that that's what it is. But yeah, so I go into more of like how to flip ADHD into a positives. There are a lot of negatives to this. There are a lot of drawbacks, but it seems like, I mean, you are the perfect person for me to talk to ADHD about because my journey is totally opposite. I was diagnosed when I was literally almost could talk, basically, and I'm almost 40 now. And my goal is I want to give back the advantage that I had in knowing so early.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's really cool. And it's so different. And like for me, like you said, it is completely different. Like, and I'm still learning so much. Like for me, it's like learning who you are all over again,
right? In
a really different way. And it's trying to be kind of okay with that. You know, if that makes sense. Like,
absolutely.
Accepting some of the stuff that you're actually. And I think as well, because there's certain things that I didn't realize that I did, or that you know, the masking side of things that I'd be like, well, I'd stop myself doing certain things. Right. And I get like the internal kind of anxiety because I really want to do stuff, but I stop myself doing it. So it's that kind of like heavy beating chest. And I'm a bit like, I really want to do something now. And I get this like ball of excitement and it's me that just wants to burst. But then at the same time, I hold myself back. And I didn't really, obviously for years, I didn't realize why. And it's because society had said, you're a bit much, Ross. Can you just tone down the way you are? You know? And so I'm kind of learning a lot more what I am and, you know, how to be.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
So this is perfect because this podcast is all about the burst. You can feel free to burst any way. Yeah. You know, like that is, I thrive on the bursts. And that is, I'm so glad you mentioned that word, is because we do keep it calm around,
totally,
you know, people. And I got so tired of doing that. Like
it's hard, right? Like,
well, it's hard, and people like you more if you don't try to keep it calm, because there are, I mean, who doesn't want to be an excited person? Who doesn't want to be passionate about the things that they love to do? Who doesn't want to be the life of every party? That's fucking us. Like, I mean, like, who does not want to be this person?
It's funny. I get that at work. Like, so my boss, and I've got a decent job and everything, even though I try and escape it all the time because I hate the corporate structure because I just can't deal with it. And it's so difficult, and I'm just like, I can't deal with this sort of world. But my boss, whenever I'm in like situations where I'm talking about things that I'm passionate about, and I work in product management, so I'm really passionate about product and stuff. So anytime I'm put in that position, I get super enthusiastic, and again, I'm like just everywhere. And then my boss is like, as you can see, Ross is really passionate about products. Other things, like, don't get half my job right now. They keep making me do like technical documentation, which is not my bag at all, and I physically can't do it. I tried to tell my boss, I was like, it feels to me like walking through treacle, you know, as you like that difficult. Like every line of it was just, and I'm trying to just, I'm staring at this thing thinking, I need to read it 16 times. And this thing took me about a week to edit. And all I had to do was go over it and make small edits. And every line I had to try and gamify. So I was like, if I do one line, I'll take a bit of time out and then I can go watch a video. And then I'll come back. And it was the only way I could get through the thing. And
Yeah.
so if you take that out my job, the rest of the stuff, they're like, can you come up with this huge plan to do all these sorts of things? I'm like, done. I'll do that and I'll come up with it in no time. How did you just do that? But it's easy.
Because you're fucking brilliant.
Yeah,
Like that, like that's well, no, I mean it's that's we are the most brilliant people in my opinion on earth. And I honestly believe that the reason that society tries to keep us down so much, half of it, they are jealous of what we can do. Because when we show up and solve a company's problems in 5 minutes and say, just do this or whatever, who wants to be told that? You've spent 6 months trying to figure something out that we just figured out, just like that. And
I think you just see things differently, right?
That gets to people. That gets to people. I mean, who wants to stay at work for 9 hours a day? You know, and most people have to do that, but we don't.
And I think as well, there's a lot of doubt because I think the way that I've seen it a lot recently is that everyone's kind of like blinkered but focused down on their stuff.
Right.
But whereas we don't, I don't think that's, I'm definitely not wired like that. And I don't think we are. I think we're more like this. You're like, we're the meerkats of the world. So we're constantly just like, seeing all this stuff. So they're busy just like writing their stuff down. And we're just like, well, you've missed that interaction over there, or you've missed how this. So for me, I have to work out how all these different teams work together and come up with plans for how to make it work. And I see all that because I pick up on all these different things. And then they ask me and I say, this is the way it should be for that reason. And then there's that doubt of like, how could you possibly think, like, how could you know that? Well, because I do. And it's like, you just can't say that. It's not going to work like that. Like, it will. Trust me. And then I make it happen. And then again, but you really have to kind of break it down for them, I find, because you have to prove so much that what you're saying is true, because they doubt so much because they can't see it. Right. And so because they can't see it, they're like this.
We have to overly prove every single thing that we do. And then they criticize us for being too over the top. That's what I don't get. It's like, oh, Lobow, he's so over the top. Well, motherfucker, it's because I have to prove to you 3 times. Like,
just listen to me once, it would be a lot easier.
A whole lot easier. If you treated me the way you treated everybody else and just kind of laughed it off, you know, instead of, I shouldn't have said that. They don't laugh it off, but what they do is they say the way he got to it was so ridiculous.
Yeah, but he got to it.
But he got to it faster, and it was better.
But they can't see it, so they doubt it, right? So anything that doesn't seem logical to them, they doubt. They're like, so this is the way I see it. It's like they can't connect the things in the same way, so their like journey is different to get there, and they're still trying to work it out. So their mind's still doing this and not getting to the point.
Exactly.
Whereas ours has already found it. We've connected the dots, and they're like, well, that can't be the way because I haven't found it yet. So you can't have come up with the solution. Right? Why not? So that's the hard part.
For example, most people that have a podcast that are not ADHD, they have these list of questions and they have forms and they have all this kind of, I don't do any of that. Oh, it's 8 o'clock your time. Hell yeah, man.
It's 9 o'clock my time.
9 o'clock. Like, oh, I love it. Yeah. But yeah, so they have all these forms and they have all this. I just want to talk to every ADHD person in the world. That's it. That's an easy goal of mine. But it's a priority too, because I don't want people with it to feel down. Yeah. Because it is such an uplifting thing if you can harness the positive aspects of it and remember that what you're bad at doesn't fucking matter in the grand scheme of life.
Totally, yeah.
Like when you're bad at something, think about what you're not good at. Does that really matter?
Not really.
Right.
I can't think of things I'm bad at. No, I can't. There's tons of shit I'm useless at. But equally, I don't care about it. Like, so for most, apart from the things that have an impact on my life, like the fact that I'm shit at paying bills, that kind of has an impact on my life.
That is a massive. That's why I married a very good financial neurotypical. Okay, and that is because I have been. That is the one aspect I could never do. I could never figure out a hack, a trick, anything. That was the one thing that it was, I've got to give this to somebody else. Like, I struggle. I need to do something. I should have done something last week. I really should have done it last week. Actually, I should have done it last month.
but I really should have done last week. And now I'm like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
So, but every time I go and like log on to the, like, because I do need to start online, it's like every time I do it, it's like, oh, okay, I can't. It's impossible. I don't know what happens.
Exactly. And, you know, a lot of people online, I think, are, you know, with ADHD they are not complaining. I'm not going to say complaining, but they are crying in front of the TikTok videos or whatnot. TikTok is my thing, by the way. Twitter is not. I've got like 35K followers on TikTok. Is an amazing thing because I can't type. Like, that's my ADHD. I can't write what I want to say, or it'll take 8,000 characters. Okay, I can't shrink that shit into like, what do they give you, like 180?
I think they increased it to 280, but that's still.
Great, they increased it. Now I can at least, you know, tell someone how I drank coffee.
That's pretty much me every morning. I mean, that's the high level of content that you can expect.
Yeah, exactly. But people they're so down on themselves because they can't do the laundry, or they don't show up on time, or they don't, you know, do these things well. The stuff that we don't do well, the reason that we get so down on ourselves, in my opinion, is because they are the daily things. They are the things that are on presentation all day, every day. So like, do you like basketball by any chance?
I do. I like
you
basketball.
Do like basketball. We're going to miss all our free throws. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, 90% of them. But give us the ball from half court at the end of the game. That's like the easiest shot we could ever take. We could ever make. But all they see are the free throws because they go over and over the course of the game. And we get.
And I think it's just a constant reminder, right? Like I literally had it today. I've been trying to do a load of washing for 3 days. It's been on 3 times. And I actually had to put it on. And I know everyone shits on lists because then you'd forget to use the list in the first place. And I try so hard. I genuinely had to put it in capitals at the top with a friggin' alarm reminder on it, just to go, look, I've tried this I've washed it now 3 times. You need to get it out. And it is, but at the same time, I don't beat myself up about it because
good for you.
It doesn't really matter. I don't really.
That's right. That's the whole thing. You're miles ahead of where people with ADHD usually are in the fact that you don't care.
I think the thing is as well, so I think it is a difference because so I separated from my wife last year, and I think this kind of has stuff to do with it, and it probably did matter back then. So if I forget to do these things all the time, that would be a thing because it would be a thing, right?
Right.
And but now it's like I don't really care, you know, if I forget to do certain things, that's on me, and who's it going to affect? Me, right? And, you know. And most of the time, my kids are here as well. We have 50-50 share, so my kids are here like every other week. And at the same time, they're not going to say to me, you haven't done the washing today. I'll do it tomorrow, don't worry about it. Like, they don't care. Like teenagers.
How old are your kids?
So a 17-year-old boy, a 14-year-old boy, and a 7, nearly 8-year-old girl.
Oh goodness! I am sorry for cussing if they are watching this.
No,
that is one thing. Mine is definitely a adults only podcast because I like curse like a sailor.
I swear all the time in front of them, even the 7-year-old, and she just says to me, "Dad, please, you shouldn't swear."
Okay.
She knows all the words. Honestly,
well, good for her.
No problem.
So I asked one question, one question on every podcast, and I'll interject and maybe ask you a couple more, but this is about you. This is about your journey with ADHD. My question is, what is your journey with ADHD? How would you explain that to someone as if they had no idea what ADHD was? This is your open-ended conversation to say your piece on how ADHD has affected you. In any way you want to do it, positive, negative, it does not matter. You are free to say what you want, how you want here.
And I think because I'm coming to this a lot later. So what I found is that, for one, the journey so far for me in my new way of thinking about it and my new way of knowing, my new knowledge, I suppose, is that when I started digging into this, and it was post separation with my wife, and I really started to think about, you know, it was a really big time of reflection. So about who I was, because I was seeing a therapist at the time, completely unrelated, obviously, just to do with the situation, and
Right.
and they kept telling me to be myself. They were like, just be yourself. And I was like, I fucking don't know who that is. And
Right.
I got to a point in my life where I just didn't know how to be myself. And then post that, I started to do that and understand what that is and embrace the things that I would have to stop doing or be told that I shouldn't do. So for me, I have one of the things that I have an inability not to act on certain things. If it's in my head, I have to do it. Like, I just have to do certain things. And for the most part, it's ideas. Hence the reason I start like 17 million businesses or own like 7,000 domains and stuff like that. It's like, it's a thing. And even yesterday, I had another one. I was like, I need to do something with that. I need to do and I will. I need to do something. I will buy a domain, and something will happen. Even if nothing happens after that, I need to like process it. So for me, as soon as something comes in my head, and it could be any time, I could be talking to someone, it'd be mid-conversation. We could be having a conversation here, and something just sparks my interest. And then suddenly I'm like, that's a thing. And I'm like, oh. Yeah. And then suddenly I'm like, how can I make this happen? So in my head, I'm like, I'm trying to connect the dots. So my head's just so for me, I think a lot of it is dot connecting. Right. So it sees things and it goes, there's a thing there. There's a connection between the things you just said and something. And it goes, light bulb. And you can do that.
Oh, I love it.
And because I've done loads of other different things, there are more connections. So the more I learn about stuff, almost like the harder it gets, but in a really, in a good way. I love it. But at the same time, the balance of that, or the challenge of it, is trying to then focus on things when I really want to. So I'm juggling 17 million things at once, but I love it. Like, I love the journey. And
see, that's the way you put that should be in an ADHD textbook somewhere. That connecting the dots is like what we do best. We are the ultimate connect. I bet you're pretty good at predicting what things will happen in the future based on certain scenarios. I bet you're like 90% on predictions.
I'm very good at doing, especially things like driving. If I'm driving, I can, like, it always used to be the case when I'm in the car, and I've seen so many crashes way before they happened, because I can just see. And my wife, when we were driving together, like at the time, she'd be like, and she didn't know how to drive at the time, so she learned to drive a few years ago. Right. And I was saying to her, like, as she was learning to drive and as she was a new driver, all the things that you should be doing, like the things that they don't teach you. And I was just saying out loud what I was thinking about as I was driving. Yeah. And it was about 7 cars in front. Exactly. You know? So exactly. And that's kind of like, that's like life. We are 7 cars in front. You know, everyone else is just hands on the wheel and they're looking around them, barely checking their mirrors. Yeah. And we know what's coming from behind, and we also know what's happening 7 cars in front. And we know if someone's going to pull out and when someone's going to brake, because that's just what's happening in our brains all the time. And I think that's kind of how I feel all the time. And but what an amazing way to feel. The problem is that you have so many backseat drivers that want to tell you how to do it. Yeah, you should be doing it like that. And that's like life as well, right? Everyone wants to tell you how you should be connecting these dots, or you're wrong, because they can't, like we said before, that they can't see what you're seeing. And so their view is different, which is fine. I understand. And for me, I'm getting a lot better at perspective. I'm not going to say that their perspective isn't valid, but at the same time, I will. No, I'm just kidding. But that's fine. You can do that. I think their perspective is very. Yeah, I think that's what this podcast is. Is taking pride in yourself. But I will tell you that I'm not going to say that it's a bad perspective on their end. I will say it's very shallow and limited. Yes. Yeah. No, I agree. And I think that's the thing. I think that's the thing that I found, is that I can be a bit more understanding, because I understand that there is a limited perspective. So it's not that I won't necessarily agree with them, but I can sympathize with the fact that I know it's a limited perspective, and my perspective is going to be different because I see things differently. Exactly. And so it's like we can agree to disagree. You're never going to agree with me because you can't see the things that I see. Absolutely. And equally, I don't see the limited aspect that you do. So that's fine.
Right.
I'll do
We're all
my shit,
humans.
you do yours.
We're all
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
We're all humans, and that's the whole respect thing. I feel like we are so, and you know what? You're awesome, by the way. I will go into the real story of why this podcast exists. So my wife's best friend died due to mental illness, and you know what that means.
Yeah.
And she was also one of my best friend's wives. So it was like the four of us. It was like, whatnot.
Yeah.
But for some reason, and she was very, very mentally ill, and none of the doctors wanted to say it. They wanted to bipolar, this, that, and the other. It was ADHD. First and foremost, that's what it was. Because the outside world harped on her. And this was an attractive, blonde girl that was social, that was whatnot. And she let that noise get in. And not to her own fault, but it just became overwhelming. You can't do this. You can't do this. Do it my way. Do it my way, to the point where she ended it. But she always told me, Lobow, like, when I talk to you for 10 minutes, I feel like I can be myself and I don't have to worry about any of that other shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, well, and after she died, and about a year later, I was like, I don't want anyone to ever feel like that again. So I'm gonna,
that's awesome,
so I'm gonna do this. And my goal is to make sure and talk to every single person on earth. Is it a feasible goal? Not necessarily, but ADHD people aren't feasible. So, tell me I can't do it.
Completely unrealistic.
Right, completely unrealistic. I'll bring the real.
I have completely unrealistic goals, and I don't even should give a shit. Like, and at the end of the day, if I don't hit them, I don't give a shit, because guess what? I'm enjoying the time as I'm doing it. So whatever, leave me with my unrealistic goals.
Right, exactly.
Because I'll get way further with my unrealistic goals than you will with your really shitty ones. So don't worry about it.
Exactly. And I get criticized all the time, like, oh, you're the ADHD superpower person. It's not a superpower or whatever. Well, the thing is, correct, ADHD itself is not a superpower, but the person with it is a superhero if they accept it and can gain the advantages. And superheroes have superpowers. Do the math.
And I think, again, because they just don't understand it, but I think it's like, if you look at every superhero has, they're fucked up in some way, right?
Oh yeah.
You look at Batman. Batman only is Batman because of his demons that he faces at the same time. And I think we have the same shit. Like, so that whole connecting dots thing is, and so I've been going through my own shit at the moment. I had a bit of a day of it, so I really enjoy coming on here because it's made me feel so much better. And
Good.
I think that it is really, honestly, and I think that
awesome.
That connecting the dots thing is a really interesting one, because when you think about it, the connecting the dots never stops.
Correct.
So when it comes to things like overthinking, like at the moment, like I haven't been feeling too well, and I was saying the other day, I was like trying to put it into words. I was like, at the moment, I have a real struggle between when I'm down and feeling like I don't want to be here, and when I'm like, that's when I'm super down and I feel like I don't want to be here, and then when I'm super up, I'm scared that I won't be here, to a point where I'm terrified and I get anxiety over it.
Do you really? Okay, you are the first person that I have met. I experienced that, like, tremendously, and
it makes me ill. It makes me ill because I overthink everything, and I'm going to the doctors tomorrow because I haven't been well, but because my mind is constantly like, but what that, and it's really hard. To monitor that regularly.
Do you exercise?
Yeah, so that's the thing.
But rigorously. That's.
I used to more, and I've stopped recently because I've been really busy. So I used to ride every single day. Like, I've got my bike in my basement, and back before I used to ride a hell of a lot more. But every time I stop, I realize how impactful this is. So today, I realized it is
honestly the key.
Our thing. It is, and I realized today. So every time I was thinking, "Oh, I'm going to die," because my stomach's been painful, my back's been painful, and so then I'm like, I'm going to die, and then I realized that I went, I'm going to look. All the things that I think it could be because my brain's going mental. I jumped on my bike downstairs, and I had 30 minutes between meetings, and I cycled pretty hard for 30 minutes. And I was like, if I was going to die, there is no way that I could cycle like this.
Lobow Spark is proudly supported by Leo Guinan, Kirk Hofstrom, Casey Elliott, Sarah Delano, Justin Allingham, Blushing Crafter, Jamie Young, and Beth Jones. It is now also supported by 14 anonymous supporters. And I understand that completely. I know I can swear and all that kind of shit. If you want to support it and be anonymous, I get it. I get it. Whether you want to be mentioned by name or remain anonymous, this podcast does not exist without all of you. And I love you. My God, exactly. That's you think the exact same way that I do. And
guess what? My stomach stopped hurting. Because I just got through all this shit, I felt better. I was like, well, this is fucked. It's crazy.
Oh my God, that is so amazing because I've got goosebumps actually listening to that because that is like exactly my approach, is the fact that we are the ultimate mind over body people.
Yeah.
We do what you have a symptom of something. Like if you have a headache, at first for ADHD, it's an automatic brain tumor. Brain tumor. Okay.
Yep.
But when you start to exercise and you just rigorously go at it, all of a sudden it's like, there's no fucking way this is a brain tumor.
Yeah, I'd be dead right now.
I mean, like there's no, and I had an instance the other day. So I actually, the medication I take for ADHD cuts my appetite. So I don't eat until like 8 p.m., every night. And then I eat throughout the night. My wife and I were cooking steaks, and I actually was eating so fast because I was starving that I started choking. It literally I was choking. She does not know the Heimlich maneuver. So while I was choking, I showed her how to do it. and she did it.
That's equally not funny, but it is.
No, it is. She picked it up, did it. I was fine. And she asked me afterwards, how in the world are you able to stay so calm in a life and death situation, but yet you are so off the wall when it's not? Yeah, I was like, because I'm bored to shit if it's not a life-altering situation.
Don't worry about it. I can deal with this. What do you mean you can deal with this? It's like, it's fine.
It was nothing.
Right.
I mean, honestly, but the next day, so I was good in that moment, but the next day I started having all these panic attacks. Like my throat hurts and I'm not getting enough oxygen to my brain or whatever. So what did I do? I went out. My exercise is chopping firewood. I do it every day.
Awesome.
I went out, chopped firewood, and in my mind I'm going, if I can just exhaust myself and start breathing really, really heavy, my brain is that's a trick. It's saying that a lot of oxygen is getting up there, so that now I'm fine. So I'm doing all that. I'm like, I'm not choking. Like I'm out here chopping firewood. Nobody fucking does this. Like
that's exactly how I feel. Honestly, I feel like
you can trick yourself. You can trick your brain into being okay. Nobody else knows how to do that. And I've told doctors, before, I will sign whatever release. I will sign, anything you want me to sign. But you lie to me, okay? And you tell me I'm fine, I'm fine. You tell me that there may be something going on,
I won't be fine.
I will not. Totally. I will not be okay. And you
because regardless of what you say, right? Like even if it's a small thing, it will be a thing. Like that would be it would be a thing.
It will absolutely, because we will exaggerate it in our minds. But if
it becomes a thing,
right? But if we can exaggerate a person with a medical degree saying you're good, then we're good.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, do you agree with that? Like, you're the only one I feel like can understand this. Actually, I've never had this conversation with another person with ADHD before.
I've had that exact feeling today, like literally today. Like I went, what's fucked up, right? So this whole thing of not feeling well and everything like that. So my stomach's been painful and everything like that. Like stomach cramps, bloated.
A lot of ADHD people have stomach issues. So
and I was like, fuck, I'm dying. Like I've got bowel cancer and all this sort of shit. And so ultimately
of course.
And so I'm like, I haven't been to the bathroom in like a day, but that's because I haven't been eating much because again, it's been hurting. So I was like, and then I'm Googling stuff and immediately.
Oh, that's the problem. Hurting. Oh God.
My stomach, I was getting like, then it was like, it's really cramping. And I was like, it was at that moment that again, I connected the dots and I was like, I've just brought on this pain. Like before, I wasn't
Yeah.
feeling the pain. I was just worried.
Yes.
But I've just brought on my own pain. And at that point, I kind of took a step back and thought, this is me. Like, I control this.
I am mesmerized by what you're saying, because I've never felt so not alone in the way that I feel about this before.
But no one else understands it, right? They think it's all in your head.
Like that.
Everyone just thinks it's in my head. Like, they're just like, oh, it's all in your head. You're just making this stuff up. And I'm like, no, it hurts. Like, genuinely, I'm in pain. Like,
exactly.
I'm not making the pain up. It hurts. But I'm bringing, like, especially through stress and anxiety, I'm causing myself to be so super stressed about everything.
Correct.
Correct. And stress is fucked. Like, stress really hurts.
Yeah.
Like, it can kill you. Like, stress can really fuck you up.
A similar story to that. I got bit by one of those black widow spiders, and you know, they're poisonous.
That's pretty fucked up too. Yeah.
well, I mean, because I'm around firewood all the time and whatnot.
But so also, you live in a country where you have black widow spiders like that. That would just be
yeah, exactly. So I got bit, and it, you know, swelled up really big. And I called, you know, of course, I'm panicking. I'm going to die, right? I'm going to die. I called the doctor. And as the doctor is telling me, spray Benadryl on it, it'll be okay. I don't even have Benadryl with me, mind you. As he is telling me this, the swelling starts to go down. My mind was just like, it's going to be okay. The second the doctor said, you'll be all right. Like, over the phone.
Yeah, and that's what we need, I think. That we just need someone to go, don't worry about it.
Right.
And now I'm not saying any power go, you'll be okay, and you go, oh,
exactly.
It just, you feel that tension, right? And then as soon as someone that we trust that's giving us that answer says, you're going to be okay, we go,
and that right there is the very reason for this podcast.
It is mad. I've never come across it before in that way. And that's really interesting that it's happened to me. Well, I've come to that conclusion exactly today. So that's even more weird.
That is exactly. So what I would love is for this podcast to be the mental aspect to the physical that you and I are talking about.
Yeah.
You are okay. And not only are you not like broken, you're kind of more powerful than everybody else that you know.
Yeah. I knew that anyway. I mean,
right. You know that. Right. No, of course. You know that, but it's like, it's a sense of relief when you can believe in yourself truly.
Yeah, totally.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, confidence is our biggest problem.
Yeah.
And I think ADHD can not be cured. It cannot be cured, but it can be greatly assisted by having the confidence in yourself.
Yourself. And I think that's, like you said from before, though, I think because society kind of looks differently on people that are different, or I think it's getting a bit more accepted nowadays. Depends on where you are in the world or whatever, and depends on what you do or whoever you are, or how old you are and things like that. Because of those sorts of things, where you don't feel like, look at school. I have this with my kids all the time, and this is a big challenge. That you try and get your kids, and they're like, oh, I don't really fit into these social circles. Who gives a shit? You're like trying to fit in with other people that you don't like.
Yeah.
Like, you don't like these people, but you feel like you should because school pushes you into these shitty circles where everyone completely sheds their whatever makes them. And they go, oh, okay, I'm just going to try and conform to this other weird fucking person. Like, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Like, my daughter loves dinosaurs. She loves cars. She loves quad bikes and stuff like this. Yeah. And all the other kids at school were like, oh, you're a girl. You shouldn't like those sorts of things. And I said, I don't give a shit. You can like what you like. And that's what makes you special. It literally makes you special.
Yeah.
That's exactly you. Don't try and be those people.
Exactly.
And all those people that are trying to be each other, they're not happy with that. They're just trying to fit in with other people because they think that's what I should be. Don't do that. And I think that's what we carry through life, right? We carry through trying to be like other people, trying to fit in. And it's a real change to then just try and just embrace who you are and just be you. And I think that's a challenge.
It's a challenge, but when you can gain that confidence of, like, let's say you make a mistake. For example, for me, my truck, my car is completely a disaster all the time. Okay.
Mine too.
There are clothes there. I mean, it is the worst ever. But when someone asks me like, can I have a ride here? I'm like, no, because you won't be able to fit in the car because I have ADHD and there's fucking shit everywhere. You would rather pay for an Uber. Trust me. So what does that do? Number one, the person laughs their ass off. Number two, you're showing your authentic self and they don't care.
Yeah.
They love you more for that.
Yeah, it's true. I do agree.
And so like the whole fitting in, ADHD people can fit in with everyone on earth if they are themselves.
I think one of the quotes, I've got like some of these displays, the things you stick on your walls and stuff, like random people, and I got them up my wall of just random people from TV shows, and I think one of them is like, is it Tyrion, the guy from Game of Thrones? Have you seen Game of Thrones?
I saw like the first couple.
Yeah,
it wasn't that.
He's Peter Dinklage from Game of Thrones, and obviously because he's small. Like that's his character. Everyone gives him shit in the TV series, but his quote is like, it's something like if you embrace your differences, no one can use them against you. And I think that's like such a powerful thing because it's exactly what you just said. You're embracing the things that make you different,
right? And
no one can use it against you because you're like, yeah, that's me. My daughter says to me all the time, like it was Father's Day recently, so she wrote me a card and everything, and because we live in France, it was like half French, half English, and all this sort of shit.
Right.
And it was a superpower card, so it was done in like a almost like a Pokemon style card where it was like, these are my superpowers and stuff like that.
Right.
And breaking things was one of those. And it's not like physically just smashing things over. It's because I take shit apart and then never get around to putting it back together again. Absolutely. Because why would I? Right. I've got 3 different cars in various states of repair because I just haven't got around to putting them back together again. I will and I can. I've got other shit to do, and then I'll get bored and I carry on with something else. Right. And so she just takes the piss out of me, and other people do as well. And they're like, they say, Ross, haven't you got 4 cars? Yeah. How many of them work? What kind of one, barely, but that's not the point. Like, and so, and the only one that works is a black London cab. So I drive around France. I went to England to buy, and this was another impulse that it was probably one of the catalysts that meant that I am no longer with my wife, to be perfectly honest, because I saw online, the black cabs, like London black cab, like the typical English black cab, obviously. Yep. I saw one for sale in England. And I went, I need that.
You had to have it.
And so I bought it. And and it went over to England and drove it all the way back. And so now I drive around France in a black London cab.
I love it.
It wasn't supposed to be my daily driver, but at the same time, all my other cars I've taken apart. So it's now just by default what it is. And everyone just looks at me weirdly in it, and I just wave. But what I love is it makes everyone smile. And I love that. Like, it's one of those things.
And people are so concerned, people with ADHD are so concerned about that kind of stuff and what people will say. If you truly enjoy it, it's not masking. There's this argument over you're masking because you're laughing this off or whatever. Well, I'm not masking if I actually enjoy what I am doing. That's not
I completely agree.
Myself. So we're also getting it from our own too. It's not just the neurotypical. We're getting it from our own people that have ADHD that are saying, "Oh, you're just masking. It's so difficult. It's blah blah blah."
That's coming from people that don't feel like they can be themselves. I think that
right. I agree.
There's so much worry with what other people think. And I got to a point where I was like, I just don't give a shit. I think I've reached, like, when old people get to that point where they're retired and they literally don't give a shit. They'll just do whatever. I reached that point a lot further forward than most people. And now I just think, whatever. Yeah. And sometimes, and my kids have embraced it now, especially when they're in the taxi. The teenagers are a bit funny because they're like, "Oh my god, I'm driving around London taxi. This is kind of embarrassing." Because people would just randomly wave when we're down the street, and I wave back. And the thing I love about it is it's such a stupid thing, but I enjoy the quirkiness of it. I love the fact that it's different, and I love the fact that when people see it, they smile. It causes them to just smile. Exactly. It doesn't matter if they're 5 or or 65, it causes them, and imagine that moment of their day that they're going to take that away, and it lives with them. And I'm like, I caused that. And for me, that's just powerful.
Well, it's very powerful, but it's also only possible because you're smiling about it yourself first before anybody else is. And I have a very similar, I've literally had goosebumps the entire time talking to you. I have a very similar story, okay, on that. So I bought a shitty Jeep Wrangler. Okay. I love, I love Jeeps. It's a symbol of freedom. And, with my brain, it's like, I want to be free, even though I'm married. And, so it's kind of like trying to trick your brain, and everything. And there was a latch, like when I would put the roof down this summer, it was great.
Yeah.
But putting the roof back on, there was a part missing to it or whatever. Do you think that I put the roof on? Or do you think that I made a bet with my friends as to how long I could last with no doors and no roof in the winter, driving 45 minutes to work and back? I put on my, ski clothes, layer after layer after layer, and did it every day. I mean, it's freezing outside, and I'm the one with no roof, no doors, no heat, no nothing. And I'm sitting there, I mean, I'm like, pouring coffee on my face just to like, and but at the end of the bet, I won a couple grand.
Of course.
Because everyone was taking bets. Everyone was taking bets on like, they would choose a day when I would cave. They would choose a day. So like, it was, okay, on December 13th, that's when he's going to have to put it on because the weather report looks like it's going to be, 5 degrees. Nope.
Not doing it. Do you have this thing as well where you just like, my mum says, oh, Russ is very tenacious. Like, I just don't give up on things. If someone set me a challenge, I will succeed. I will succeed 100%.
There are no better people than ADHD people in that regard. I will not stop.
I've got a great story, right? Because I was working with a guy. And I was doing an ed tech startup at the time, and one of the biggest ed tech companies around at the time was Pearson, and they're still pretty fucking massive at the time. And we were building some really advanced analytic technology, which was really cool. Came up with it was really cool, and I was like, we need to talk to the CEO of Pearson. He'll be the best person to talk to.
Right.
And it was a friend of mine from university was like, you're never going to be able to get to contact him. You'll never be able to speak to him. I was like, yeah, I fucking will. Don't tell me I can't.
Yeah,
like,
no shit. Like,
do you fucking know me?
I'm just going to call him on repeat until he answers or email him every day until he gets it.
I couldn't get his number. I couldn't get his details. Like it was, and he knew this. He knew that like the phone number and everything was, and you couldn't find any details about him online. It was just really fucking hard.
You drove to meet him, didn't you?
No. But what I did, so we were due to meet, me and him, not me and the CEO. Me and my friend, we were due to meet in London and go out for dinner. And I said, you know what? I'll pay for steak if I can't get that person to call me back in some way. And I didn't even have the number for him at the time. And I just, even on the way there, I was still doing stuff. I managed, so the way that I did it in really sketchy sort of ways, not too sketchy, but like
that's fine.
I went through because they didn't give any numbers out. They didn't give any details out, anything like that on any front desk. So I went through but Pearson has offices all around the world. So I went through offices in like South Africa and stuff like that. So I went through really bizarre offices and then claims that I'd been put through to the wrong place. I worked my way in, like piece by piece by piece. Eventually, I got the details of, and often they'd send me to marketing. So like, oh, he's trying to fish for us, but he's going to send him to marketing. So sending me to marketing, and I was like, shit, I've been found out. I've got to come back. I've got to try another way. And I kept going. And so just coming on the way up to meeting him for dinner, I'd got his contact details. I'd got his phone number. I'd got his email address. I'd got his PA's details. And so I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to nail this. And so I'd called, I'd left a message, I'd spoke to his PA, and I'm going to be able to get to call him. But as I met my friend, so it was me and Dave, we ended up going out for steak. And at that point, I hadn't I hadn't spoken to him. So I was like, fuck, I failed. Like, this is, like, I'll pay for dinner. I said I would.
Right.
We left dinner. We were walking back. I was going to see him off on the train, and I was going to go a different direction. We're walking down the road. I get a phone call, and it's the CEO of Pearson. He's like, it appears you've been trying to contact me, and we arranged a meeting to speak. But I love learning about these things. I think that's the thing. Like, I just love anything that I touch. I love learning about. Like, so I just soak it all in. So as we started building this out, and she said, "Why isn't there a Vivino for cheese?" And I was like, "Oh shit, there should be this." And she was like, "Don't do that, Ross. I know what that means. As soon as you say that, it means you're going to go and fucking build something." And I went, "Yes, it does." and so I did. But the more I thought about it, I was like, "Oh, how does the business model going to work?" So again, I'm trying to connect these dots. I'm trying to just like put it all together. And then it just became kind of a thing. And it was supposed to just be, again, like educational for people and stuff. But then the more I dug into it, because obviously like rabbit hole style, I went kind of down into it and started to learn way more about the industry. And then I started to speak to cheese producers and stuff like that. And I was like, these guys are like fucking artists. Like, they care so much about what they produce. That's their life.
Yeah.
And COVID fucked with them. COVID absolutely fucked with cheese producers.
Fucked with everybody.
It fucked with everyone. But cheese producers alone, they don't want to deal with supermarkets, because supermarkets completely fuck over everyone. Like all of these big chains. And then so it was like, oh shit. And they lost 70% of their customer base, because their customer base for the small and medium cheese producers is hospitality. So it's all hotels and restaurants. Right. So with all that shut for 2 years, they lost 70% of that. The rest of it is B2C, but they're shit at technology. And again, on their connecting dots, I went, we can use technology to help them get more customers directly. We can open a new channel.
Absolutely.
And so for me now, I deeply care about helping cheese producers. So everything I get into, as soon as I find out kind of what that is, I'm like, I want to help that. Like, how can I make this?
People with ADHD are drawn to passion, whether it's our own or other people's, even if we don't, which makes us remarkable human beings in relationships. Because the small shit sucks. And I had to explain that to my wife before we got married. I had to say, look, I'm going to frustrate you like you have never never experienced. It is going to be really tough, but if you can be just the kindling, I will provide the fire.
Yeah, that's a really good way of looking at it. Yeah.
And because I can't pick up the small twigs, but I can chop the biggest fucking fire logs there are, and I will keep us warm for a long time.
Yeah, that's cool. The hardest part for me,
but I can't start without you. You know, like I can't start. I can't get it started without that small detail that I'm going to overlook.
Yeah, totally.
And that's so I need you to look at those details.
Because otherwise I'll be straight off past it.
Right, exactly. I'll be trying to use a lighter with like a log that is this big. It's not going to fucking work, you know. Like, but yeah. So I've got about 7 minutes. God, I wish I could talk to you for hours. We
could do it again, man. Totally do it again. I'd love to. This would be
I still have not met one person with ADHD that isn't this remarkable, intelligent, passionate, forcefully driven person. Not one. I am trying to find maybe one that is not excited when they talk and passionate about something and successful in one area of their life. What I'm trying to say is, like, everybody else needs to shut the fuck up and let us be.
Yeah, 100%.
Because we will soar if that is, you know, the case. But I do want to ask you, at the end of every single episode, I ask one thing: what are you most proud of in your life? And that is not, it doesn't have to be, and a lot of people will say, I'm proud of my children. That's great. I want to know what you are most proud of about yourself. A characteristic, you know, anything.
Oh, probably more recently I've come to, because I've done a lot of self-reflection and I feel like a lot of personal growth in that way. I'm really proud of that, right? Because for years I was chasing what I thought would make me happy, right? And I thought that was a thing, and I think that a lot of people do. Everyone's like, I'm going to find happiness, and so the realization that happiness isn't a destination. Like happiness is just everything. Happiness is every single fucking day. But you can't embrace that until you, one, understand that, until two, you are true to yourself, right? As soon as you get to that point and you can be present in yourself and be content with who you are and what you are and just everything about you. And as soon as you get to that point of self-awareness, yeah, I'm not perfect, but guess what? No fucker is. And do I give a shit? No, but whatever. But guess what?
Yeah.
The points about me are fucking amazing, and I can embrace that. Like I can do things that other people would just never be able to do.
So name one thing.
I love that.
Name one thing.
I can creativity. I can pick things up like crazily.
Yeah.
I paint. I fucking write random books, poems. I can take apart anything. Like you give me anything, and I will learn it in like half the time, a quarter of a time than someone else would. And I'd love to do it. Yeah,
the blinders. That is so awesome. This has been amazing.
I've really enjoyed it. It's been like the highlight of my day, honestly. It's been so good.
I appreciate that. Last thing I'm going to say is like, you realize like how fucking cool you are, right? Like, I mean, you got to be the center of, you must have a shit ton of friends.
I shut myself off quite a lot because I can't be dealing with people.
Don't ever shut yourself off. You are too much fun.
Oh, thank you.
You are too much fun, man. Like, goddamn, I would kill to be in France right now. And after we record, just go have a fucking beer with you at the bar. That'd be so much fun.
I would love that. That would be good fun.
But
I would never say no to that anytime.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. But I love you, man. You have a great one, and I will see you
amazing
very soon. Very soon.
Definitely, 100%.
Don't let anyone give you any fucking shit, okay? You keep being
likewise.
Oh, I don't. Trust me. That's why.
No, I believe that.
Trust me. At this point, I don't. So, all right, man.
Message, yeah.
Yeah.
Take it easy.
See you, buddy.
All right, bye.